Have you ever wanted to troubleshoot anomalies and slowdowns in your infrastructure? Do you need thousands of per second metrics with meaningful virtualizations and insightful alarms with zero configuration? If this sounds like something that you need, netdata is the tool for you. Netdata is a completely open source tool that you can install on any of your running Linux machines. And as soon as you install it, it starts to monitor with meaningful configurations across thousands of data points. This tool is really quite awesome, and I am really excited to bring an interview with the people that are making netdata. Now, if you don't know, it's a tool that was created back in 2016, or at least released then, and it strove to have a zero configuration, batteries included approach. Now, that being said, netdata's whole goal was to be fast and efficient, so it takes very little of your resources on your machine and is highly efficient. Now, I wanted to let you guys know that this interview was on my request. There was no monetary compensation. And in fact, it only cost them their time as they worked with me to bring you this interview. So I just wanted to be upfront and clear with you guys that no money changed hands. This is not sponsored by netdata. I'm actually bringing it to you guys because I have found netdata to be very useful to me. I use it on my home infrastructure as well as in my Kubernetes cluster, which I deployed with Argo CD. Now, that being said, I really wanted to give them some of the exposure that they deserve because they are a very useful tool and solve a very real problem. And I thought that if you hadn't heard of them, you'd like to. But what better way to give you an insight into the tool than to also get to interview Odysseus from netdata to have a little conversation about not only what it provides now, but what are some of the things that they're looking to provide in the future. With no further ado, let's get into the interview.
3, 2, 1, 0.
The Null channel.
In that case, I'm passing it on to Odysseus. He can let us know a little bit more. He has a quick introduction to the company itself in case you're not 100% sure of what the company is.
Hello, Marek. Thanks for the invite. It's always very good to speak with users. As you told me before the interview that you're a user yourself, so awesome. If you have any feedback, it's good to do a discussion live here. I think it's interesting for everybody. So my name is Odysseus. I'm doing developer relations at netdata. So netdata, as Mark told, it's a monitoring tool. It started back in 2014. It's a product of anger-driven development because basically our founder was very, angry that he couldn't find the solution for his monitoring. He was working in a company in the banking sector, and he couldn't find anything good. So he was like, "Screw it, I'm going to do it myself." And he did. So in 2016, it was released and it gathered a lot of stars. It gathered 10,000 stars in a couple of weeks, and it's basically the hype then was exploded. Why was that? Because netdata has, as you said, two very important stuff. It's batteries included. So we do data. It stores your data, it visualizes your data, and it takes all the hard parts that you normally do it yourself. It does it for you. So how to organize your metrics, where the metrics are, which metrics exist, where they are, everything it does by itself. So it gathers data from wherever it can find. It organizes the data in charts, which is a very hard part to understand how you have to structure your data. And then, of course, it stores them. And on top of that, it does it with a 1 second granularity, which is very important because if you have an intermittent event that it happens every 5 seconds, and you have Prometheus or another monitoring tool that has 1 minute or 15 seconds, you lose it. You don't see it. And in most use cases, it's not be important. But if you're in the banking sector and you have SLAs for transactions, you have business. You're losing money, literally. So netdata started back in 2014. In 2016, it went to GitHub. In 2018, after having already 30,000 stars, being an open source project for a couple of years, Costa Chaus, the founder, decided to, that's big, that's something. So let's do it a company, right? Let's take it to the to where it can lead. And we got VC funding. And in 2020, we launched our SaaS platform, which is basically what we are doing is like GitHub. We give most of the things for free, and we will only give a subset for monetization. So the netdata agent, the open source, it will remain free forever. It's like our gift to the world.
So now I wanted to interject really quickly here. When you were talking about 1 second granularity, does this have a large cost when you're talking about, is it consuming 50% of your CPU? Or is it, just wondering if there's a huge cost connected to that.
Actually, that's another very good point. Costa is he's old school, and he's like a performance nut job. So he wrote it in C. So the entire engine is optimized into the machine language. So actually, I tested myself on the Raspberry Pi Zero. I don't know if you know the Raspberry Pi Zero has 1 core and 1 gigabyte of RAM, and gathering about 600 metrics per second. It consumed around 10% of the CPU
on a Raspberry Pi Zero.
On a $5 PC.
Yeah, that's pretty good. It's pretty good. Another thing that you mentioned that I'd love to call out is you talked about batteries included. And so basically what that means is once you've installed it, it just kind of works. It's gathering metrics. And you start running it, of course. It's gathering metrics and storing them locally for you to view it, and you can view it through a web page, right?
Yeah, right. The whole idea of netdata agent is we productize our experience into the product. So you don't need to know how to find the metrics and organize them into charts, because if it is in a MySQL database, the use cases are specific. We can make that assumption for you. So the idea is that it has more than 200 collectors. That's how we call them, data sources, little programs that gather from data sources. And the idea is that, if there is a MySQL, there are 10 same defaults that we can assume that you're using. Of course, if you're using a custom port, custom configuration, of course, there you'll have to intervene, obviously. But we try to make as many assumptions as possible, so you don't have to find the metrics, organize them, create the alarms, find the optimal values for the alarms, right? We try to do everything ourselves. So you don't have to.
I was actually going to talk about your collectors. Now, this is one of the beauties of an open source project. It should be possible that if I do, for some reason, want to run my MySQL in some way where you can't monitor it, I could actually take the MySQL collector and write my own MySQL collector, yes?
It's even simpler. You just modify the configuration file. So you just say that, you know what? There is no mysql.soc file for security reasons or whatever. Just go to that host, use that username, password for combination, and that's it.
Now, I guess we'll get on to, you alluded to it a little bit, that you guys started a netdata cloud. And I think that this has been a very big ask for some type of federation. So for the longest of time, I used netdata locally, but it was each machine. If I wanted to see what a machine was doing, I'd have to go to that machine. And the netdata cloud is your federation. Now, right now, I can tell you that if you go to your guys' cloud, it says that it's free. And when I was looking through it, it looked like it was absolutely free for even if I wanted to run it in production. Is that true?
Yep. It's like GitHub. And then I'm not saying that it's not a random example. It's like how what is a use case that we like, how it's a business case. We want to follow its footsteps, So what GitHub did was that it monetized certain enterprise features. So you wanted private repositories, you have to pay it because for probably you're a company, right? If you want private repositories. So NetData Cloud, the version that you see right now, it will always remain free, always. Connect as many nodes as you want, organize them in as many groups as you want, everything for free. At some point, we will add some more enterprise-oriented features like audit log, advanced security. But these are the features that we're going to have behind the paywall.
And these are the more features that your individual or small startup aren't really going to care about anyways, for the most part.
No.
Everybody should care about security and audit logs, but they're probably not going to pay for them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, even for audit logs, I'm not sure a small startup would need them. Like audit logs it's how, for example, in terms of a security leak, so the management has to go through and see who had access for what reasons. It's
really when a company is going to try to get compliance that audit logs and things like this are important.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right.
And we do a lot in open source, and we want to give back because we took from open source a lot. GitHub, NetData had so much, development because a lot of people. We have more than 460 contributors. A lot of people came and offered code or feedback, just their time, basically. If they invest time in helping you, they're contributing. So we want to give back, we wanted to say thank you to the community.
Let's talk about some of the features that the cloud does bring in. Now, I know that this is a little of an unscripted question, so you might not be prepared for it. But I would love, for peace of mind, getting something for free always makes me a little bit nervous.
Yeah.
Do you sell my data?
No, absolutely not. That's actually, that's one of the beauties of the system is that we don't have your data. The data lives in your netdata agents. It's a good model to think about. It's a distributed database. So you have like your VMs, your Kubernetes cluster or clusters, right? And you have a couple of netdata agents that are distributed in your infrastructure. Let's say 20. The data lives in these 20 nodes locally. And because they live near the data source, it's cheap. It's cheap to store them there. So, and actually that's one of the reasons that NetData Cloud is free, because we don't store data. So we don't have to pay for you understand, right? In other companies,
right,
data is very expensive.
You're not paying to store a bunch of data.
Right.
Which would cause you to have fees.
Yeah. And the beauty is that when you go to the NetData Cloud to view your nodes, we don't store again your data. The data are streamed from your node through the NetData Cloud to your browser directly, securely, using WebSockets secure. So
secure
what
WebSockets
you see are the data that lives in your node, and they're streamed live at this point.
Okay. So how are you able to do things like alarming? I'm assuming then, because as far as I think graphs are awesome, especially if you're trying to go back, but alarms are really where, I can sleep easy if I know that I have a good alarm that's going to let me know when something's wrong.
Right.
And sometimes I get stuck into monitoring dashboards. I don't know if you've ever, you get really pretty dashboards and then you spend that half an hour just looking at them, seeing if you can formulate some. Anyways, I digress.
And you're proud of what you've created. Right?
Yeah. Hey, honey, come check out this dashboard I made. Why would I care? Yeah. What? It's awesome. What?
What?
Anyways, that being said, I apologize. I digress sometimes. Alarming is where right. I think key is. You do provide a ability to alarm, and you have a couple things coming through the pipeline. So right now you support emails, but you have more than that coming in the pipeline. Yes.
Yeah, we have a whole bunch of things around alarms. Again, everything is agent based. So your alarms, the agent is responsible for looking at the data and seeing that should I fire an alarm or not. And if it does, it will go to cloud and say, hey, there is an event going on. Please do what you must. And then cloud will inform you.
Awesome.
Cloud is just an abstraction. So what we're building right now in the alarms, there are awesome features coming. I can't say more, but we want to you have 20 nodes and you have 200 alarms. The data cloud will offer abstraction. So a single pane of glass, where it would be strange, it would be grass, right? So it's a single pane of glass that you can see the entire infrastructure and if everything is normal, where alarms have fired. We do store some metadata on the cloud. So, for example, for the alarms, we might store when an alarm was fired, so we can visualize it to you.
And this is something that doesn't necessarily make sense on the nodes itself.
Yeah.
So we talked about your open source commitment, and I just wanted to get a little bit for the people that might be interested. Do you guys hold office hours, any community at time? So if I wanted to get involved in the netdata project and the open source that's happening, is there a way that I could get involved?
Yeah. We use GitHub. Of course, that's start. So we will start community office hours. Probably next month will be our first. We haven't still making an announcement. The best course of action is to visit our forums, community.netdata.cloud. And from there, yeah.
I will also, as soon as you get me the link to the community page, I will post a link in this video. So awesome. You should be able to, underneath this video, go to a link to not only netdata's page, but also their community.
Yeah, we have created so there are 3 places. Is the community where you come in, chat with engineers, ask your questions, see where the community it's really growing, because now NetData is a mature community. We don't have the hype that we used to have because it's maturing. So we are less people, but we are more engaged, sort of. We also have a community page. I will send you all the links. So we have a community page. It's like a one-pager with everything you can do to engage with NetData, like contribute code, fix bugs, future requests. We have a whole contributed guide on how you can contribute code. And of course, the last thing I want to say is that we are really looking to improve how many data sources we cover. We want to create even more collectors. So what we're going to do, we are going to have an open call for a list of collectors that we want to support. And if you happen to use that data source, for example, Apache Kafka or CockroachDB, and you happen to use it in a production setting, we are looking for production settings. We want you to come see the data that we're going to gather, give us feedback on how we're going to organize it, and then use the collector we're going to create in your production setting or production-like, work staging, whatever. So we can get real data, because we want to take all the complexity out of the user. So we need you to help us create a smart system that doesn't force the user to understand 100 different metrics in order to create 10 different charts and then configure 20 different alarms.
So basically what you're asking is that if there is a connector that isn't made for a piece of software that you use in production that you want made, it's really the onus is on the individual to get in contact with you guys and help you guys understand what needs collected so that you can build a fantastic collector for it.
Yeah, absolutely. To be clear, the system is very easy anyone can create a collector. So if you want to create cover an edge case, you can do it yourself. It's very easy. But we want to support production grade a certain number of collectors of data sources. So we want to QA them properly. And we need your help to better organize the metrics and really pack your experience inside the collector itself.
And talking about these collectors, I went and looked on your website. There are a lot of collectors that you have. So if I pull this up, you have a lot of the ones that I was very interested in. So I had never used netdata up till 3 or 4 weeks ago with Kubernetes, but I found that it worked quite easily. I actually deployed netdata to my Kubernetes cluster using Argo CD. So that's a GitOps style of deployment, but I was able to get it to deploy so that I had this basically dynamic and able to control the configuration through Git. So I was very happy with that. And it was actually fairly simple. It was one of the more simple Argo CD deployments. If you've ever done an Argo CD, sometimes those deployments can get a little hairy. But it was actually really easy. And I'll be sharing that. So there'll be a link to that deployment if you guys are interested.
Yeah, I have a video we created the video. We saw how to monitor your Kubernetes cluster in literally minutes. It literally, NetData Cloud, you just install NetData using Helm charts, and the rest is history. NetData then understands the infrastructure, and you can visualize it in a heat map and everything, all the containers, pods, whatever, in minutes.
Yeah, all you really have to do is the Helm install, and then override the variables with your key, right? I think that's all you have to.
Well, it's to be frank, it's still a work in progress there. We at this moment, when you install, every NetData agent will stream data to the cloud. So if you have 10 NetData agents in your cluster, so it will be 10 connections to the cloud. The end goal, we are currently doing a huge rework of our backends in order to create really good infrastructure and change our architecture. So the end result will be that all the different NetData agents will stream data to a parent NetData agent, which then will connect to the cloud. So it will be cleaner.
That will reduce the number of connections to the cloud that you have.
Yeah. And the override will not be needed anymore.
I think,
but the functionality is the same. The user is not perceptible.
Okay, so cool. You're going through the re-architecturing. You're learning about how everybody learns as they go through how to best do it. I always find that my very first architecture is never my best architecture. It's after I've been through 3 or 4 architectures that I really start to understand the problems with each type of architecture, and why I think experience is so important.
It's a lot of learnings. We're probably going to write up at some point. We learned a lot. Because when building a monitoring solution, it's a very different requirement. People production systems are dependent on you, so you can't. You have to be perfect. And when you reach a scalability point, we change the architecture so we can be certain 100% that everything will be perfect. Because production systems are, if we lose an alarm, that might be problematic.
Right. No, it really does. Going from, actually, that's probably an entire video itself on going from a open source project to a production ready enterprise cloud solution is in itself a journey people probably don't understand. They're like, oh, you have the open source project that, just works out of the box, and it does just work out of the box, but tying that into the cloud then and understanding everything that goes into that, I 100% understand where you'd be coming from with that's would be a fantastic write-up, or if you want to do a video, you let me know.
Yeah, but to be fair, that netdata agent is mature at this point. So if you're using netdata agent production systems, there is no way you are going to lose an alarm or any. If you use the stable releases, you don't follow us on our nightly discoveries. It's really mature, and it's really
6 years old now. That data.
It's 6. Let's say 5 since it was released in 2016.
It is 2021. You're better at time than I am.
Yeah. It's mature, and actually there is a lot of businesses that use it internally. I think the killer feature that you can't really find it elsewhere is for troubleshooting. I mean, alarms and you can find it elsewhere, right? Long-term storage, we are not the best at that point. We need to improve our database. We are optimized for a couple of weeks or months of data storage. Then we support exporting. So we, in general, the data agent is very extendable. It's supposed to be used alongside your current tools, not replace them. But you can't find another tool that is going to troubleshoot your systems so easily with such accuracy. And without
because
users have told us literally that they forgot that they had it installed.
Yeah, because it requires so few resources, and it also monitors a bunch of things right out of the box. So pretty much everything that I'm worried about, we're talking about containers and Docker and Kubernetes, kind of just work right out of the box. You don't have to.
eBPF now. That's super
eBPF,
important.
that's a huge one, as you're talking about Cilium and things that are starting to move. So your Kubernetes networking is, if you use Cilium, or even Calico is starting to support eBPF in. And so all of those things, while they bring huge, eBPF is awesome and brings huge performance gains and other things. But if you've ever tried to debug eBPF, it can be a nightmare. And something like netdata is invaluable when you're starting to talk about these low-level things where it just already has a history for you. And if you already have that on the machine, it really does work quite well.
Out of the box, you can see file descriptors or how many open, how many closed. And we invest a lot of resources. We're going to see a lot of eBPF charts coming because the goal is to just whatever it gives us, we will show it to you. That's a philosophy we have. We don't choose metrics.
Awesome. So you talked about how we can export that data. Is there any automatic exporting that you can be done? So like, after a week, it rolls over into maybe my Prometheus or
exactly.
Is that possible? I haven't actually done that myself.
So the idea is that it has a streaming module. So you just configure it to Prometheus, Victoria, InfluxDB, Graphite, whatever. You can downscale it. So you can say that I want to stream every minute or whatever. And that's it. It's 2-minute process. You just change the configuration file and it's done.
All right, that's actually really awesome because that allows you to tie it into some of your other infrastructure. So if you wanted to show, some of the stuff that it's collecting in Grafana, it would be possible to through that.
And a lot of people are using it as an awesome headless collector.
Okay, yeah, no, that's what I do mostly.
Yeah. Of course, when we make netdata cloud more awesome, I assume that people will want to change because we have some very awesome abstractions coming. So I think in the near future, we are going to think how much configuration you have to do in your other tools, and just say, nah, netdata cloud it works like that.
It just works. So when are some of these awesome abstractions coming out? What's the time frame? Are we talking about months, years?
Months. Yeah. Months. Yeah. It's actually it's a huge priority right now alongside the work for the backend we do that you don't see as a user. We want to improve the UX and bring a ton of abstractions. So basically want to make it easier to use, and we want to abstract as much things as possible. So at this moment, for example, you have to configure your alarms in every netdata agent, right? You have to go to every netdata agent because everything is configuration file based. In the near future, you're going to do it automatically through netdata cloud.
Okay. So the netdata cloud is awesome, and I actually really do like it quite a bit, especially now that my selling of my data has been appeased. I really do like the netdata cloud, and it's really easy to use. I guess my next question here is, let's say I have an air-gapped solution. So it doesn't have access to the internet, and the netdata cloud is really awesome. Is there a possibility that we get this federation that you've done in your netdata cloud in either a paid hosted solution or an open core? So like the core stuff that's free anyways, could that be released as a open core, and the other stuff that's on top of that released as the enterprise that I could run locally, so that I could have an air-gapped solution? Or maybe I just don't trust you with my data, which is not me personally. I'm talking hypothetically for everyone else.
Right. Read my face. It's it's something that a lot of enterprise customers have asked for it because of policies. At this moment, it's not on their committed roadmap. We're going to do it eventually, of course, but it's not on the committed roadmap. So I can't share any information on the timeline or whatever for an on-prem solution. That being said, if you had very strict policy, you can't use netdata agent as a sort of proto cloud, which means that you stream your netdata agents to a central netdata agent. So this central netdata agent has access to its own database, but it also has access to the databases of the other children, because in essence the database of the children is replicated in the parent. So you have these headless collectors, and instead of having to access all these children, you go to the parent, you choose the database you want to view, and of course the parent is also responsible for applying alarms. So this is currently possible using the streaming functionality.
So basically, you can still use the headless netdata and use either a single netdata as the parent, or stream it out to your Prometheus.
To apply alarms to facilitate you. But you can use, for example, Kubernetes. The Kubernetes collector, the Kubernetes collector will work, but the visualizations are on the data cloud. Or, for example, our metric correlations. We have at this moment AI, machine learning, not AI, machine learning. We do machine learning, and it's very awesome because you find an anomaly in your agent, you highlight that, and in less than a minute, it gives you the other 10, 20 charts that are relevant, that they view the anomaly. So you can go to the CPU and directly it will guide you to the Nginx chart that has the same anomaly. So you can correlate. You won't be able to use that. Although in the near future, we want to push machine learning to the edge. So we want to introduce local metric correlations and machine learning capabilities to the agents themselves.
Oh, really? That's really cool. That sounds like you guys have. It sounds like you guys have a lot of exciting future plans, but not just future plans. Like I said, the NetData Cloud itself is quite exciting, giving you that federation, and the agents themselves, even without the cloud, are really awesome.
But it's included. For like 5 years there was no NetData Cloud, so we tried to create as simple as possible NetData agent, as a robust.
So is there anything else that you'd like, is there any final word that you'd like to tell me and my viewers?
I think I would like to conclude with the community call. So we want to start awesome things in our community, the office hours. We have a very active forums. We're really engaged. The communities are DNA. We're very community and user driven. So just hop in the forums, engage, ask how you can contribute or do future requests. We'll reply. And of course, if you happen to see in the collectors list, we will publish. If you see something that you use, it would be awesome if you would like to help us create an awesome alarm, because it's for everyone. The more alarms the more collectors we support, then the new SRE guy or girl who will start in this profession, and they can easily use NetData to monitor the systems in their business. Because this experience that you have, it will be packed inside the collector, and the newbie will be able to use it to be successful. So that's super important for us.
I do actually think that SREs are probably... Now, I use it not as an SRE because I use it for debugging and stuff. But I think SREs are another great point out. And I love NetData's focus on community here because I have... It's very important, especially when you're doing it open source. If you don't have a community, don't care about a community, I could point some fingers. But then what is the point of doing open source in the first place if it's not about building that community and having that group of people with a common end goal? So,
yeah. And I think it's in our times that a lot of people are quarantined in-house. I think community is more important than ever. It's a door to camaraderie and friendships that a lot of people are lacking due to COVID.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you very much for your time. Thanks for spending the time to do this interview with me. Thanks for letting all of us know what's up with NetData, what's up with its cloud, and thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks a lot. It was fun here.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I want to first say a huge thank you to NetData, who spent their time to answer my questions as well as to interview with me. I had a lot of fun, and I hope they did too. If you liked this interview, if you liked this series of interviews, go ahead, like and subscribe to this video, and check out the playlist because now there are 2 videos in it, and I'll look to add more in the future. If you did not like this video, but still like netdata, go ahead and give them a star on GitHub and give them a little bit of love out in the open source community. If you're here and you really did not like this video, and I don't think that I did justice to netdata in my interview, I'm going to need you to go ahead, hit that subscribe button, and see if these videos get any better for science.